Folks, I was scrolling through my YouTube homepage, as one does, and a video caught my eye. Now, this video is by a channel that I am not familiar with, but would probably enjoy. It's run by Mike Glover and called the Fieldcraft Survival Channel. I love me some good fieldcraft, but you know what I don't love? Terrorists. Good thing Mike isn't one.
The Federal Bureau of Investigation has targeted me, my family, and my organization, American Contingency, calling us a extremist organization, militia, or a domestic terrorist group.
Ooh, now that's how you write a title. Don't look at mine, I'm embarrassed now. The gist of the video is this. Project Veritas has published a document from an alleged FBI whistleblower, which outlines potential identifiers of violent militia extremism. Immediately, I'm a little wary, because Project Veritas isn't the greatest source. They themselves are pretty right-wing, and may align themselves more with militia extremists than more neutral sources would. Their news-gathering methods may limit whether or not they are legally protected under laws relating to news media. Their employees may not be entirely sober while putting together the published material. Their whistleblowers don't appear to be infallibly accurate. They seem to struggle with understanding what doxing is. And I know this isn't important, but using a microphone isn't that hard.
I'm James O'Keefe, standing here in San Antonio, Texas. He said it's what he does all the time. I talked about the pimp costume a lot.
Yes, the complaints that I'm making could probably be made with varying levels of accuracy about most news outlets at one point or another. And Veritas' reputation, tarnished or not, does not change the fact that we have a document to review. The first question I like to answer is this. Does this document look legitimate? Now, I've investigated cases that the FBI had some involvement in, but I was never on the receiving end of their internal publications. The CID and MPI offices that I worked in, though, did have documents that looked very much like this. It surprises me that the FBI would allegedly use red instead of blue for the header, and it does seem a lot fancier than I would have expected. It's potentially odd that this is unclassified, but this is unclassified for official use only, although if this is real, I imagine it's labeled that way because this info has been publicly released before, while this info is new. I don't know why these notable attacks or this timeline are considered law enforcement sensitive, but I guess that would make sense if the timeline was put together from law enforcement sources, at least in part. Again, I'm no expert in the exact manner that the FBI prepares these types of documents, but I'm not seeing anything overtly wrong with it. Everything that seems odd has a potential explanation, and if it's a fake, then someone really put the time in. But we're avoiding the main point. Does this document establish that Mike Glover is considered a terrorist by the FBI? No, absolutely not. This isn't even close to a question. Reading this document would have told you this. Folks, this is why I make these videos, because things make so much more sense when you just go over the facts. Nothing against you, Mike. I'm sure we have a lot in common, but I'm going to help you out. Mike runs an organization called American Contingency, which he started in order to help people protect themselves during times of civil unrest. Okay, I can certainly understand the interest in that, especially since I've had to defend myself against civil unrest myself, and good golly gosh, look at that! The name American Contingency shows up on this memo. What a concern! But not really, because if you just look right above that, you see the words symbols of militia networks some NVEs may self-identify with. Self-identify! That means American Contingency isn't a terrorist group, but there are individuals who have decided, presumably without your input, Mike, that they are in some way affiliated with your organization. And those individuals, presumably separate from your actions or the goals of American Contingency, are in fact engaging in behaviors that are consistent with militia violent extremism. You could have saved both of us a video if you had just looked at that one single enlarged sentence. If I had to guess, the problem started when you encouraged regular, everyday Americans to get up off the bench and take a stand, to hold on to the values that underpin the United States and our communities. And then, perhaps some people had varying ideas of what take a stand meant, and what the values underpinning the United States were. Consider as well the fact that groups known for countering protests with violence would be interested in learning about interacting with civil unrest from a former Green Beret. It just starts to add up, but the bell hasn't rung in this math class just yet. Perhaps you started appealing to extremists when you promoted conspiracies about a new world order, or Islamofascism and global Marxism? Really? Maybe it was when you advised members to read books about understanding anti-Trump conspiracies, or required them to read internet articles that allege all claims of racism by the left are actually neo-Marxist attacks against American ideals, and which rebukes people for dividing the country by claiming Trump's tweets are divisive, without addressing the fact that those tweets are in fact divisive. Gosh. Maybe it was when you rallied patriots to take back America from extremists that happened, strangely enough, to only be liberal. I mean, the Sunrise Movement? Really? Maybe the reason that you're under attack from the liberals is because you think a youth organization interested in stopping climate change is a national threat. And look at this! CARE is here in Seattle. Sure, you'll identify the Council on American Islamic Relations as a threat for what? Providing resources to protect civil rights throughout the state, but you're awfully quiet about identifying the Proud Boys, who also have a bit of a presence in this area. Sure, Antifa, or Antifa if you prefer, was a problem here, and the Chop Chaz zone sure was weird when I walked through it. But there were plenty of threats at the time, both in Seattle and throughout the country, that weren't exclusive to members of the political left, and it's weird that none of them show up on your website. It's no wonder that you don't know who your content is appealing to. You don't seem to be paying attention to them at all. That's the only good reason I can think of that you haven't stopped to think, maybe I did in fact appeal to certain people that the FBI is interested in keeping an eye on.
We gotta take him and wait!
Because the alternative is that you don't think this is extreme. But they're just exercising their Second Amendment right, you might say. Well, if that's the case, then why is it that in July of 2020, the only intel you had on your website was about the NFAC? I'm not putting words into your mouth. I understand you didn't make that argument. But for those that would, why is it that white people with guns are exercising a constitutional right, but black people with guns are a safety concern? In case you haven't been paying attention, folks, just about any angry crowd with weapons is a safety concern. I was actually on your side here until I found all of that. I just wanted to help you understand the memo, but wow. I had the entire script for this video written before I stumbled across your earlier post, and boy, did you throw a wrench into my plans. I mean, I can see why you followed your own advice and removed a lot of your political rhetoric. It's just a shame that the intel update that this advice was published in describes the events of January 6th as complex instead of outright condemning them as the exact political turmoil you are training people to withstand. Although, to be fair, I imagine they would seem complex to someone who thinks Twitter is oppressing the leader of the free world, and that the First Amendment protects citizens from the terms and conditions of private companies. I'm going to get so many comments now with stupid fallacies about all of this. But hey, maybe I can use that to identify exactly who the extremists self-identifying with their organization are, Mike. Now, if you don't mind, I'm just going to finish the original script I wrote because I'm not going to be able to come up with a smooth transition from the insanity that was your original website. I'm going to try to help you with an example. We both served in the military, Mike. I'm sure you know as well as I do that criminal gangs will sometimes have members enlist to gain training that would benefit the gang back at home. Does that mean the military is a criminal gang because criminals have snuck their way in despite the military's efforts to stop it? If the military issues a memo on possible indicators of gang activity, which they have before, and they say a blue bandana is an indicator that someone might be a member of the Crips, does that mean that everyone with a blue bandana is a member of that gang? Of course not. Sometimes a blue bandana is just a blue bandana, but sometimes a blue bandana means if you enter this place wearing red, you'll be leaving it wearing black. And speaking of the military, a few days ago, before I even saw the FBI memo, I watched a soldier in uniform drive a truck up to JBLM with a "We the People are Pissed" decal and a "Don't Tread on Me" flag flying from one side of the truck bed, and a Second Amendment flag flying from the other side. The man was literally protesting himself. And my immediate thought was, that guy's an idiot. My second thought was, I hope his unit is monitoring him. Not because I'm against the Second Amendment or because I'm turned on by the thought of Uncle Sam in a leather catsuit, but because I've seen that exact thing at an extremist rally. People in military gear, waving large flags, acting like idiots, displaying the symbols identified in the memo. Open your eyes. You were Special Forces, I was an investigator for CID. You were a contractor, I was a bodyguard. If I need to know how to kill somebody, I'll come to you. But I'm confident my abilities in behavioral analysis-based threat identification are a lot more honed than yours are. And as for the FBI, bringing it back around full circle, the fine but blurry print on that memo says, quote, The use or sharing of these symbols alone should not independently be considered evidence of MVE presence or affiliation, or serve as an indicator of illegal activity, as many individuals use these symbols for their original historic meaning or other non-violent purposes. End quote. Another quote, the FBI may not base any investigative activity on the rights guaranteed by the First Amendment, end second quote. Although, to be fair, I fell into the rabbit hole of your everything after only a few minutes of watching your video, so perhaps it was I who missed something. To summarize, the FBI has identified some of these symbols as potential indicators because people who are potential terrorists are using them. Now, before I saw your old website, Mike, I would have been happy to buy you a whiskey and talk about this situation if you were ever in the area, but now I'm not quite as open to that idea. And as always, ladies and gentlemen, thanks for watching to the end, and until the next time, be good, stay safe.